With more than 30 years of nonprofit leadership, Dr. Lila Anna Sauls is the CEO of Homeless No More, an organization pioneering comprehensive solutions to one of the country's toughest problems. From crisis management to transitional support to the development of permanent, affordable housing, Dr. Sauls discusses the group's strategies for staying on mission while weathering the storm of unprecedented federal cuts. Welcome to the Science of Good, where we sit down with cause leaders who are disrupting the status quo, tackling our toughest societal problems, and seeking better ways to spark change. Welcome, Lila Anna Sauls, to the Science of Good podcast. I'm so excited. We are both so excited to talk to you today.
Thanks for both of you having me.
You're so welcome. I've heard so many great things about you, and Kevin has spoken so highly of you and the work that you do at Homeless No More. So, explain to our listeners and viewers about the great work that you all are doing.
So I tell people, first off, I'm the leader of a great team. And our team works with vulnerable, at risk, and homeless families and children. And we do it through a system of care. It ranges from emergency shelters and really quick housing to actual affordable housing development, which means right now we have hundreds of units across the state that we are designing and building for families who don't need shelter service necessarily. And then our last pillar, as we call it, is advocacy. We have recognized that if we don't change some systems, our families are never going to achieve financial and housing stability on their own.
Lila Anna, can you tell us a little bit about some of the systems that you're advocating for and some of the things you're trying to change?
It's such a long list, Kevin. Honestly, it is everything from a livable wage, a family working 40 hours a week, making $11, $12 an hour, just cannot afford safe, clean, affordable housing. Housing in general, how do we develop more, knowing there's a shortage of 14,000 units just in the Midlands? Education, healthcare, uh, it,
It's a
trans-
long list, but
it's a
if we
long
go,
list.
we've got your sounds like your top three or four.
Yeah.
Um, Whenever I'm talking with nonprofit leaders, the elephant in the room right now is budget cuts and federal funding. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's impacting you, or how you anticipate that impacting you, um,
So
and maybe what your take is on how to best navigate it?
I can tell you what my take is today. I think what we're all sensing is it's ever changing. The dynamic is much different than it has been with any other administration. Um, it's a lot of strategy at this point. We're doing everything 3, 6, 9, 12 months here. We are attempting to wean off of anything federal we can, which is a lot. But at the same time, I think what we can't live with, and we don't want our families to live through, is this just uncertainty at this point.
Mhm. So, how do you communicate what is happening with your organization and the people who are impacted by it to donors?
So anybody who knows me knows I talk a lot. And I mean, it is about once a week now. I will send my team the update. Um, Again, we know it changes daily. Full transparency, whether we think a particular funding source is in jeopardy or if we have a win and it was spared. And it's the same with the donors. It's a lot of one-on-one conversations. We have not put out what I call the breaking case of emergency cry for help. Because we really just kind of made the decision in the very beginning after that first executive order that what we were going to focus on was sustainability for the organization. Washington be damned.
Right.
Mm.
Well, I imagine the struggle that you're facing, that all of us are facing, is you're having to communicate to your donors. You have your communications to elected officials, and then also they're the people you're trying to help. So let's talk about the people you're trying to help and what your posture is there, because that's got to be the toughest of all the difficult conversations. That has to be the leading most difficult one.
Yeah.
But would you believe it's the hardest to have? Our families, the families we serve, are so used to what I consider to be entitlement benefits,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's Medicaid or housing vouchers. That when we try to have the conversation with them that this is coming, they almost don't believe us because it's never actually happened before. So what we did as a team, we spent hours and holed up in a room with the dry erase board saying what were the four things our families needed as far as life skills to tackle what we see coming that they don't really believe us on, knowing that some may leave the shelter in 2 weeks, so it may hit them in 2 months. And we just kind of decided we were going to tackle it from that viewpoint of while we have you, we're going to focus on four topics over and over and over. And all we can do is prep you for the next steps. And then we developed this really cool little sheet where we had them total up what benefits they're getting
Hmm.
because most don't even consider them benefits. They've just always had health insurance.
Mm.
And once we totaled it up, we cut it by 80%. And we said, so this is what's going to happen in the next 6 months to a year. And we put real tangible numbers on it. And again, help them understand that a housing voucher is an entitlement benefit that is in line to be cut. If you've always gotten it, if your family's always gotten it, to you, that's not an entitlement benefit. That's just part of life.
I want to say kudos to you and your team for being forward thinking and really preparing people for what's next and the unexpected and just having them plan for their future. I think that's really powerful. So, what do you think this means long term for nonprofit leaders and other organizations like yours?
So I'd like to think we have always been incredibly strategic at Homeless No More. If you look at how we have grown over the past 10 years, especially, um, I think we're all going to have to operate from that point of view moving forward. Um, some of us will have to slow down. I mean, we're going back to the strategic planning table in 4 months. And, a lot of the conversation will be, do we have to finish what we've started before we start something new?
Mhm.
Or have our priorities shifted? Um, and it's also understanding that the idea that community support, whether it be individuals, foundations, businesses, they're going to start cutting back, or I call it cutting the pie slices smaller because more people are going to come to them for help. So, we're in the middle of budgeting and it's this mindset of, all right, we're going to cut by X%, regardless of what we think is coming, knowing if it doesn't happen, wonderful. If it does happen, we're good. We're prepped, we're ready, kind of what we're doing with our families.
Lila Anna, you mentioned strategic planning was coming up. Is this part of a set cycle of strategic planning? Do you do a strategic plan every 3 years or every 5 years? What's your timing on that? And is this upcoming look at the strategic plan on schedule, or did you break with the schedule and say we've got to revisit before
No,
time?
our plans are 5-year plans. I hate calling it a strategic plan because I've always known organizations to plan and then put it on a shelf. For
Mhm.
us, our strategic plan is a living, breathing document that we kind of go in and update as needed. So we're at our 5-year mark anyway.
Hmm.
We would have, it's kind of like the life of a brand. We
Mhm.
know that about every 5 years, you need to reassess. Are you still heading in the right direction? Is it what the community needs? Is it what you can afford, et cetera? So we were getting ready for that anyway. Now it's just, look, every 5 years, there's something, whether it's executive orders or whether it's a recession or something. So we're kind of used to that one thing. This is just larger than anything we've ever seen before.
Mhm. It seems like you all really make the strategic plan and revisiting it a when you say it's a living, breathing document, you all make an intention to do that, right?
Correct.
I've often heard that sometimes, Kevin, good intentions are good for nothing. So it seems like you all are very intentional about doing that. How do you create a culture of intention like that?
Um, so we're very specific when we recruit board members. We tell people that Homeless No More is not a check a box on your resume kind of board. So we look at our board members, what can they bring to the table when we're talking strategy. I tell people I don't have a yes board. They keep me honest. So a lot of it is making sure you have the right board members at the table. The second part is you got to have the right team at the table. If you're not from a growth mindset and if you're not from a collaborative mindset, you're not going to make it at Homeless No More. If you could see my office, I have this really big glass table that you can write on. So when we meet, it's like we're dry erasing, we're drawing, we're creating our operational plans. We have a whole wall in my office that's a dry erase board. Um, Everything we do comes from this point of, will this work for 3 months, 6 months? We want it to work in 18. What do we need to get there? And we are, again, just constantly revisiting it. It's really good for most people, but if you are not someone who kind of embraces that you want to know how we're going to get there, not just tell me to get there. Because everybody's got a seat at the table.
I love that.
Do you think that this radical reaction, radical pivot from COVID era, the sector is awash with funds, then we've had this extreme reaction to cutting everything. Do you think we're due for another extreme correction in the opposite direction?
We call it the pendulum.
Mm-hmm.
It always swings back.
Yeah.
We lost over 200,000 in federal funding 8 years ago. And it was because DC didn't want supportive services with housing, which is what we know works. 100% of our families go on to permanent housing because of our support services. So we intentionally turned that money back in.
Wow.
It was not our mission. We stand by the programs. We're not a housing first type organization, and we had the data to prove it. So we saw that coming. We turned it in before they could tell us we're taking it, or uh, you're stuck halfway through a year and you've got to follow these new rules. When that happened, we knew it would start swinging. So what we're seeing now, even though it's not being done in the appropriate way, is people are wanting that accountability in the program piece. They just don't know what to call it. And we're kind of laughing, going, oh, it's what we were doing 10 years ago that you said cost too much. So we're watching it swing. It's just at some point, it's got to land in the middle. We're buckled up. We don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but we've seen it go back and forth before.
Wow. I can't believe that the organization that you sent money back and said it wasn't. I mean, that had to have bought you a lot of credibility with your advocacy efforts. Hey, we're the organization that is so mission driven. If we're not on mission, here's your money back.
We refuse to chase the money. We've had people come to us and say, "Will you take this grant? We don't have anybody else who can do it right," but it had nothing to do with what we're supposed to be doing. And I think what you see is we do things really well because we're very focused on what we do. And that is just, it's I've been here going on 23 years. It's how we've always been. And if we chase the money and we catch it and it goes away in 4 years, so we're left empty handed with programs that we can't support.
Speaking of, I know you have the full continuum from emergency housing to transitional placement to affordable housing. Do you think with these radical cuts, do you think any one of those three pillars will take more of a hit than others? Are you going to focus back down on? I think you started with just transitional housing. Any any ideas on, are you going to cut wholesale big things? Are you just going to take everything and take it down
I'm not cutting
a little
anything.
bit?
You know me. I'm like, no. No, in all honesty, I think what we're seeing is, unfortunately, there is a huge need for that emergency piece. Those are the families who are living in cars. They've been evicted. They're on the street. It's a 30-day program, but that is probably where you're going to see the cuts come in. Luckily, we're down to less than 100,000 in federal funding there. So again, if we budget wisely and we think we know what's coming, we'll just start building up that private capital as far as donors there. Transitional is the part that, I call it the hill that I'll die on. It's, that 2-year shelter with life skills, childcare, you name it. Again, we pulled the federal funding from that 10 years ago. So it's stable. The affordable housing piece is where cities and counties are going to have to step up,
Mhm.
period. It's the shortage continues to grow. You're going to see it grow even more because of these federal cuts. And there are enough revenue streams in our capital deck, as they call it, that we can kind of piece things together. I think we will finish what we've started on the affordable housing
Mhm.
before we start developing new projects. We have about 60 million tied up right now in housing development projects. And I want to see those across the finish line, about 200 units. Um, then we can start dreaming again.
Mm.
Do you think the cities and counties will step up?
They need to. I don't think they understand how much affordable housing costs.
Mm.
So I think when they say we have 10,000, they need
Mhm.
to understand that's what a geotech survey costs, not what it takes to build hundreds of units. I think they're going to have to look at things like inclusionary zoning. So they're working with larger developers than Homeless No More, that I call them the big boys, who can develop 300 units at a time. Not our model, but certainly needed. And I think you also need to look at that mixed income so you don't create your pockets of poverty, which is what we're very strong on. We have smaller developments so you don't look up and have 200 I say I wouldn't want 200 college kids in my backyard. It has
Mhm.
nothing to do with low income families. So how can you utilize neighborhood connections and neighborhood feedback and buy-in so you can infill some of the smaller pieces of property where you could put 10, 20 units. That takes strategy, not just money. So
Mhm.
your original question of, do I think they'll do it? I hope they will do it. And I hope when they do it, they will use a strategic mindset and it's not just about the dollar sign.
Wow.
Lala Anna, when I listen to you talk about this topic, I would imagine, especially in your work, there's a lot of stories that you've encountered. I'm just curious, what is the one thing that you're really proud of that you all have done?
Um, the kids who are in our care, the families, those kids have no clue they're homeless. You walk into our education program, you walk through campus at Live Oak, which is, the affordable landlord tenant housing. Those kids are living in their minds a normal life. Anybody who knows me knows I have 5 of my own children. Those boys still come home talking about the friends from Homeless No More they've made in our camp programs who are now in class with them in the different schools. Those kids have had no idea they were in a shelter. That's probably, as a mother, my my proudest. Yeah, it's we're their safety net along with their parents. I'm always very clear to say that. We're walking a journey with those parents, but those kids, they trust us, and that's invaluable. And that's the next generation.
That's good stuff. I love
Wow.
that. You know, one
That's
of the things that we do here is we always ask our previous guests to ask a question of the next guest. And that question I want to pose to you now is, how do you hold on to hope during such volatile times? And listen, I've already fallen in love with you here. First time of us meeting each other, because you're like a ray of hope and optimism and sunshine and advocacy. I just want to know, how are you holding on to hope during such volatile times, so much trouble, and there's so much reason to not be hopeful? How do you stay
What
hopeful?
what the hell is our other option? I mean, you walk away. I think I hold on to hope because I know I'm not alone. Um, I go home to an incredible partner and incredible children. Two of my children are literally working with me this summer. Um, I have a team that supports any crazy idea I come up with. Um, I have a board that keeps us all kind of in line, but at the same time won't get in our weeds. Um, and we have community support. We have respect. That's what we have. That gives me hope. And I think that if I have said this before, probably said it this morning to a team member, the minute I don't think I'm doing what I need to be doing here anymore, I'm not effective, I'll hand it over to somebody else. It would be the right thing to do. But my hope is, I have to believe there's good people. That's
Yeah,
it. There's good in people. Um, and we'll get through it. It's going to take some educating, and it's going to take some. I call them the backroom conversations. It used to be you could walk into a room and yell real loud. You can't do that anymore. Everybody's yelling. You get lost in the noise. So it very much becomes, how can you finesse your narrative and have your one-on-one conversations and make your ripple effects.
powerful. I tell you, you're one of the good ones. So
I'm
my question
tired.
to you, you're one of the good ones. So what question do you have for our next guest?
Oh, um, I always like to know what keeps you coming back every morning,
That's a good one.
whether it's your fifth year or your 50th year. What keeps you coming back?
I love it.
Lila Anna, this has been a really terrific conversation. It's just great to hear about all the good that you're doing in the world and about how agile you have to be. And my takeaway is, wow, um, in a time when a lot of people are panicked, you are saying, hey, these are the bumps in the road that happen every so often, no matter what. It's just like, we had the Great Recession, and we had COVID, and now we have this.
Hmm.
And if those other things are any lesson to us, it's that this too shall pass, and we've got to get through it as best we can. So thank you
And
for joining us
if not
today.
us, then who?
That's
So
right. So
that's
I
it.
appreciate it, and I hope and trust that other nonprofit leaders will enjoy hearing how you're managing things, and it might help them when they think about their strategic plan or their 5-year plan or their board communications or what have you. But thank you again.
No, thank y'all.
The Science of Good interviews support the work of For Goodness Sakes, a communications firm that uses behavioral change principles to help nonprofits and government agencies advance social causes. Learn more at fgsakes.com.